Hello, hello, hola, hola a todos, bienvenidos. Welcome to Latin Voices.
Voices.
Hello, mi gente. And here we are. So we're going to be talking about
Okay, so the topic for today is what if your next chapter doesn't look like your last one? So that's a good one. So stay tuned.
perfect. So before we start, let's introduce ourselves so you know who we are. If you are keeping with us, welcome again. Hi everyone. My name is Yesenia, but everyone knows me as Jessie. I'm a nurse by profession. I live here in Ontario, Canada, but I'm original from Cuba. I have my business online and I'm a mentor at the same time.
Hi everyone, my name is Sandy. I'm originally from Panama but currently reside in Surrey, British Columbia, Canada. I also work in the movie industry and I'm a proud digital business owner and mentor.
Hello, everyone. My name is Isabel. I am originally from Mexico and now residing in the US. I am a wife, a mother, a grandmother, a former educational assistant, and now I'm a digital business owner and a mentor.
Perfect. So today's topic, as we said before, is going to be what if your next chapter doesn't look like your last one? So let's begin. Let's start.
So welcome back to another episode of Latin Voices. So we'd like to begin with a simple question. What if your next chapter doesn't look like anything like your last one? For many people, change feels uncomfortable, especially when we have invested years building a career, learning a profession, or creating a life that suddenly begins to change. But sometimes the chapters we never planned become the chapters that teach us the most. So today's conversation, especially for immigrants, professionals, or caregivers, and anyone standing at the beginning of something new, let's explore three reminders that may help us embrace that next chapter with greater confidence. And for that, we're going to be talking about the following points.
Okay, so we're going to have 3 points today. The first one, every new chapter begins with letting go of the old one. The second one, your experiences are more valuable than you realize. And number three, a new chapter begins with one decision to keep growing.
Okay, so let's start with our first point. So, every new chapter begins with letting go of the old one. Every chapter of our lives has a purpose. Some seasons teach us how to work hard, others teach us patience, resilience, or gratitude. And while it's important to appreciate those experiences, there comes a time when we have to be willing to turn the page and embrace what comes next. So, letting go of an old chapter doesn't mean forgetting it or pretending it didn't matter. It means recognizing that everything you have learned has prepared you for the next season of your life. Your past is part of your story, but it doesn't have to limit your future. In fact, the skills, the experience, the lessons you have gained often become the foundation for new opportunities. I can relate to this personally. I spent more than 25 years in the film industry and I'm incredibly grateful for that career. It taught me leadership, organization, communication, teamwork, and how to stay calm under pressure. Those experiences shape who I am today. But there came a point when I realized I wanted something different. My parents were getting older. I wanted more flexibility. I wanted to create more time for the people who matter most to me. Then, when the industry slowed down in 2023, I had a choice. I could hold on to what was familiar, or I could begin writing a new chapter. That decision wasn't easy, but it became one of the most meaningful turning points in my life. Today, I still value everything I learned in my previous career, but I'm also grateful for that I was willing to learn new skills, embrace new opportunities, and continue growing. Many of you may be standing at the beginning of a new chapter as well. Or maybe it's a career change, or a personal goal, or a new season with your family, or simply a desire to grow. Don't let yesterday keep you from embracing what tomorrow could become. So, as today's reflection reminds us, your previous chapter prepared you for the next one. It doesn't have to define it. So, here's the message for you guys: respect your past, but don't be afraid to embrace your future, because every experience has prepared you for the opportunities ahead, and your next chapter may become your most meaningful one yet. So, that's my message for this point.
And for our second point, we have your experience are more valued than you realize. You know, sometimes we look at our past and we think about the things we didn't accomplish, the opportunity we missed, the mistakes that we made, or the seasons of life that we didn't turn out to like what we expected. But we have to understand that our past experience is more valuable than when we realize, because every job we had, every challenge we faced, every mistake we made, every skill that we learned, even every difficult season, everything taught us something. Your experience, our experience is developed, a new perspective, our perspective. And then the only thing, and that what does it does is strengthen our resilience. And they taught, like sometimes maybe just important time what you don't want anymore. Like when I was a nurse, my past experience, like I'm still a nurse, but like my experience showed me like I was there, I was there all the time. I was giving my time continuously for money. Yes, I need the money, but I didn't have a life. I didn't have time for my family and for my loved ones. And sometimes I was not there, but I learned my experience teach me that. So I wake up, and now it create that resilience because I already live it, and now I know what it was not good for me, so I'm making a better future right now. And we take all that knowledge into a new chapter, into this online business or anything you want to do in life. You don't have to start over from like zero. Maybe you don't know all about it, but you came with experience. you know you start with the experience you're coming in. Can be a work, can be a whole lifetime, can be you're already retired to start your business, can be you're a new monk. Doesn't matter the experience, you're bringing it with you. Maybe your next chapter is going to require you to learn something new. Maybe you take different direction in your career. Maybe you start your new business because you want to create something powerful for you and your generation coming in. You develop a new skill, you meet new people, and you start doing something you're putting off. Whatever the next chapter look like for you, don't underestimate it, what you already learned along the way. Your experience, it is important because you become wisdom. Wisdom? You get more experience about it. Your challenge become your strength, and your past can become the preparation for something you haven't experienced yet. So if you are entering a new chapter, don't ask yourself, I'm too late for this. Ask, what have I learned that I can take with me? Because you are not beginning again as a new person. um you're moving forward with everything you learn, and sometimes your next chapter isn't supposed to look like you, like the last one. It's supposed to look like the person you become from that chapter. So yeah, that's what I have for you guys.
Okay, well, moving on to the next point. Um, a new chapter begins with one decision to keep growing. Have you ever noticed that the biggest chapter of our lives doesn't usually begin with certainty? They begin with a decision. And a lot of times it's not easy to make those decisions. It's not easy to start in those big chapters of our lives, whether it's a new job, becoming a mom, being, the mother of a child that is leaving for college. Those are decisions that have to be made. There was a season in my life when I thought my story had already been written for me. I was an immigrant mom working every day, helping support my family, doing what I believed was the responsible thing to do, right? My days were full, but deep inside, I kept asking myself, is this all my future is going to be? Then came the moment that changed everything for me. Watching my oldest daughter prepare to leave for college made me realize how quickly life had passed. I couldn't get those years back anymore, but I could decide what the next chapter of my life would look like. I didn't have all the answers. I didn't know how everything would work out. But, I knew this. I wanted a different future. I wanted to be willing to grow. So I said yes to learning, yes to stepping out of my comfort zone, and yes to believing that at 46 years old, I could still write a new chapter. That one decision didn't change my life overnight, but it changed the direction of my life because it gave me new skills, it gave me new friendships, opportunities to travel, the privilege to mentor other women, and the most important thing, more choices for my family. So now when I look back, I realize my next chapter didn't begin with everything um, easy, it didn't start with an easy beginning. It began with the day that I stepped out of my comfort zone and I stopped letting fear write my story. If you're waiting until you feel completely ready, you may be waiting for a long time. Your next chapter starts the moment you decide that you are still willing to grow. Because a new chapter doesn't begin with your circumstances. When your circumstances change, it begins when you decide what your future is worth growing for. So remember this, you don't need to have your entire future figured out. One decision to keep learning, growing can completely change the direction of your life. Thank you.
Thank you, Isa. So now our key takeaway for you is there if there is one message I like to remember about all of this we talk about is your life is not defined by one chapter. Every season brings new lesson, new opportunities, and new ways to grow. Whether you beginning again, changing careers, supporting your family, or adapting a new stage of life, remember that your experience have prepared you for more than you realize. Keep learning, keep growing, and remain open to possibilities that next chapter will bring because your best chapter may still be ahead of you.
Okay, as you reflect today, ask yourself, if I weren't afraid of change, what new chapter would I be willing to begin? Then identify one small action you can take this week to move one step closer to that future.
Okay, so we have arrived at the end of our live today on Latin Voices. I want to say thank you everyone for watching us, for support you, our Latin community and our Spanish community, Hispanohablante, Hispano community for watching us. And remember, we have Latin Voices from Monday to Friday. Uh, sorry, you have Latin Voices every Thursday. And you can stay with us. And for next Thursday on Latin Voices, we have this topic: what makes someone ready for a new chapter? And there is where we're finishing. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching, to our followers, and thank you so much. And bye, everyone.
Bye.